Hey Rockstars, I'm JB, expert salesperson and master presenter.
I'm the doctor, psychologist, and behavioral expert.
This is the Entrepreneur Mastery Lab podcast.
We're high-performance coaches that help service-based professionals and entrepreneurs take their skills to the next level.
70% of entrepreneurs fail, which is why every week we have real talk with real entrepreneurs to help ensure you are not one of them.
We're also the inventors of the Be Rich mindset,
where we rise to mastery,
inspire greatness,
celebrate knowledge,
and help others along the way.
So join us in the lab.
And now, on to the show.
Welcome back to the lab. I'm JB.
I'm the doctor.
If you're listening in and it's not your first time, thank you for joining us again. We're excited to have you. And as always, we've got real talk with real professionals coming up. Very exciting guests this time around. We'll launch into that in a minute or two. If it's your first time joining us, you're in for a treat. Here at the lab, we spend a considerable amount of time talking to awesome professionals, give you the insight, the wisdom, and the knowledge you need to kick butt and chew some bubble gum out there. So take a listen, subscribe, follow, give us a 5-star review. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. If you're listening to the podcast, follow, and we really appreciate it. We want to do more of this, and we do it when you are able to support us with a little bit of free loving.
Kick butt and chew bubblegum?
You know what? I mean, that's like a Duke Nukem thing from like the 90s. Somebody's going to appreciate that.
Just don't get those two things confused, guys.
Unless you're into that, in which case we don't judge.
Yeah, judgment-free zone. Different taste, though.
Oh. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see my face. If you're not, you can imagine it.
Which is a great reminder that we are on YouTube, so you can check out the podcast visually and catch all your senses going crazy.
Yeah, in fact, if you need to kill some time, we got a shift coming up in daylight savings time right around the corner here. So maybe this is a great opportunity to catch up on a few of our episodes.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have some daylight, extra daylight. I feel so much more accomplished during that time.
I don't know, man. I just would like it to stay put one way or the other. I don't care if it's the spring or the fall. I don't care. Just like keep it steady. I need it. Where is it steady? Arizona? Does it not change or something? I need to move to Arizona. Okay. Shout out to Arizona. And like the rest of the world, doesn't really do that, right? That's a U.S. thing. We're just screwed.
Yeah, we like to complicate the easy things.
Yeah, so we don't use the metric system, and we got to change times around all the time. We just mess with people. Why not?
I'm happy for daylight. Come on, daylight.
All right. Enough of daylight savings time. We do have a freaking awesome guest joining us. We have Mr. Eddie Jimenez joining us from 1Huddle. And
speaking of sunshine.
Yeah, let's get this guy on the stream. Eddie, what's up, man?
What's going on, guys? I don't know. Listen, I heard something about chew butt and kick bubblegum. Is that right? Or do I got it mixed up?
Don't get too excited.
Oh, man.
Whatever your palate likes.
What's going on, guys? Super excited to be here.
Yeah, man. Well, I gotta tell our audience, Eddie, 1Huddle, all about gamification. I don't want to take away anything that you're going to talk about, but if you're not applying gamification into what you're doing in sales and marketing and your business and your systems, you're probably missing the boat on a lot. So really pumped to have you joining us here, Eddie. Why don't you do us all a favor, tell the audience and our listeners just kind of who you are and what you do at 1Huddle for us.
I love it. This is the opportunity where I get to pump myself up here. Well, my name is Eddie Jimenez, like you mentioned, right? Oh, man, the flex, the guns. I lead the partnership and community division at 1Huddle. So what is 1Huddle? Anything and everything an employee needs to know in a game on their phone. We're the fastest way to onboard, upskill, and reinforce training. But better yet, development, employee development. So anything that you could think of, we could gamify it.
It's pretty awesome, man. And how long you been with 1Huddle now?
Oh, man, 4.5 years, going on 5 years. Actually, oh, man, almost 5 years. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, so there's not a fly by the pants brand new company we're talking about here. We're talking about a major freaking player in the industry. You guys seem to work with like everybody out there. You got some major brands that you're working alongside.
Yeah, we are. Listen, we're blessed. We have some really big brands in our portfolio. You know, we work with companies such as Audible, Lowe's Hotels, Tao Group, Department of Defense. Man, we have some of the largest brands, but from small, mid-size, and large enterprise clients. Man, we could work with everyone.
Yeah, hey, Doc, we got those sponsorship agreements out to all those companies ahead of time, right?
They're pending on some of them, so don't pump them up too much yet.
Oh man, they already paid us, so I don't know what you're gonna do.
Did you put the wrong address again? I hate when that happens.
You guys messed up.
So, man, I got to ask you, Eddie. I mean, to me, I totally geek out over this stuff. I mean, it's the psychology of getting people to learn better and really retain better, which is a lot that we've talked about in the past offline. But how'd you kind of end up in this space, right? What influenced you to come into this space and do this? How'd you end up here?
Man, I wish I had an amazing story to tell you that I was overqualified and, you know, Sam, our CEO, sought me out. But really it's when luck meets opportunity, man. And that's kind of what I think, right? You know, nobody does it alone. You do need some luck and opportunity. But Sam and I met about 20 years ago. So my background is in the fitness industry, real estate, and offshore banking. I don't know how we put all of those together.
Weird trifecta, man.
It's a natural trio.
That's like totally Zelda, right? I you know, that's the Force or whatever. I don't know.
Listen, it makes sense, man. It makes sense, right? I was working out one day, and then I decided to go offshore banking, and then I got in real estate because of it, right? No,
only in South Florida.
Only in South Florida that happens, man. It really does. But Sam and I met, like I said, we met about 20 years ago. I've you know, one of the brightest guys I've ever met. Always pushing the envelope. And about 5 years ago, he's like, man, listen, it's time to come home. We are really making some, you know, taking some leaps and bounds, making some really big gains. We are trying to help the industry, you know, really help on the onboarding front, on the ongoing. So I went ahead and I said, yeah, after he kind of calmed me and told me that we were going to be rich overnight, which was not true. But we're doing some amazing things, man.
Hell of a sales tactic. You're going to be rich tomorrow. I swear it.
He told me. No, man, in all honesty, man, it was actually, I flew up to Newark, New Jersey. I met the team and I fell in love with the brand right away, to the point that I left sunny South Florida and I moved up to Newark, New Jersey. That you would say, what's wrong with you? My fiance at the time, now my wife, she was not too happy. She's like, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? Have you been to Newark? I'm like, listen, we're doing some really good stuff, man. Everybody deserves an opportunity to, you know, not only chase their dreams, but get better and upskill themselves, man. And that's what we're all about.
Yeah, that's really, really cool, man. You know, Doc and I, big believers in bettering ourselves and growing in education. So just love the alignment there. Man, I love one of the things you said. I think that kind of gets dismissed a lot. What the intersection of luck and opportunity, right? When luck and opportunity come together, you could be the hardest worker in the world. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck, right?
I agree 100%, man. We talk about, you know, and we're in this culture, man, you know, do it yourself, you know, lift yourself up by your bootstraps. But the reality is, man, nobody does it alone. We all need help, right? And some of it, you know, luck plays a big part. Some of us start in the 50-yard line. Man, we're returning that ball for a negative, right? So
107-yard return, right?
Jesus Christ, man, I almost out of bounds, you know, and you're like, what am I doing here? And that's really what drew me into our whole mission, right? Powering the people that power teams, right? Where I'm always thinking about that because, you know, my family immigrants came here with a dream, and you know, almost start singing, right? It was all a dream, right? But you know, and that's what it's all about, and I'm really aligned with that. But yeah, man, luck and opportunity, you need a little bit of that.
Yeah. So I say that, and I will add to it that I think a lot of times we can create a lot of our luck. We put ourselves out there. We can meet people, and we talk connections all the time. The Doc and I, we talked about on another podcast episode recently, just the nature of connections. It's a small pond we swim in a lot of times.
Yeah, well, that's the third part to that, right? Luck and opportunity, but guess what? Being prepared, right? Because if somebody walks up to you and says, "Hey, guess what? I have a Bentley for you, right, for $20,000, and it's a 2022, and you don't have the $20,000, it doesn't matter that it's a good deal, man. You're not getting the car. Guess what, right? So you also got to be prepared, and that's on you, right? But guess what? If you're willing to do that, we live in an age, man, that all the information that you could think of is readily available at your fingertips, right? So if you just gotta search for that, and if you have the discipline, upskill yourself and really focus on being prepared, man, the luck and the opportunity eventually will show up.
No doubt about it, dude. So I want to ask on behalf of our listeners, just kind of if you were to go into briefly just why gamification, why it's an essential today, like why does not just big business, right? I mean, you mentioned massive companies, but why small business, mid-sized, why is gamification so important? Why do you need to have it?
Well, everybody talks about gamifications, right? But let's be honest, man, most people don't even know what the heck that means, right? They're talking about, oh yeah, our e-learning, our LMS platform, we have some type of gamification. Oh, we gamify. You don't know what the heck you're talking about, and that's the reality. And it's unfortunate, right? Because I don't want to knock on a lot of the learning professionals out there, man. There are some studs that really understand how learning works, right? Some other people are just, yeah. Hey, Doc, I'm going to expect that 50 after the show, right? Please slide that over.
It's in the same mail as our other checks that are coming.
That was a pretty cheap plug, though. I mean, I got $50. I mean, what about me?
You're paying a lot more. You're paying a lot more. Stop playing. But listen, Doc, like you plugged in there, right? The reality is that's super important, right? Because what have we been used to for so many years, right? We're old learning habits, right? We're watching the videos, we are reading the manuals, the textbooks, and then we go ahead and take a test. And we've been doing that for year over year. But guess what? 70% of, well, not even 70%, let's take it a step back, 100%, right, of anything that you learn within the first 30 days, you're going to forget 70% of it, right? Within the first 30 days, you're going to forget up to 87% of it. So my big push is, listen, if you don't remember it, did you ever learn it, right? So when we talk about gamification, it's a way to drive engagement. It really is that. We could go ahead and talk about, really the science of learning and actually the science of our platform, but I'm not going to bore the listeners out there. It's just a better way to engage. And that's one of the struggles that a lot of companies today have. It's exactly that. They don't know how to keep their employees engaged. They don't know how to bring them on board faster. They don't know what is motivating them. Sometimes they're just throwing money at them, but generations are changing, right? Today's generation, even though they, everybody likes money, right? But accolades, recognition. How about, hey, am I part of the future? Am I part of the plan? Right? So all of those things are extremely important. And gamification plays a part of it, but let's even take it a step further. Coaching, building a culture, right? We talk about that, right? But when you're going into a company, what's the culture like? As coaches, right? And that's what we really advocate for, managers and leaders being better coaches. Is, hey, no, I'm your manager, I'm your boss, this is what you got to do. No, how about you become a coach, man? How about you take somebody through that learning journey and help them grow and expand, train them to the point that they could take a position anywhere in the world, right, with any company, but give them the culture and the recognition that they don't want to go anywhere. They want to stay with you.
It reminds me, Eddie, of that saying that's been out there for a number of years now, but it's our listeners haven't run across. This is a great one. It's a CEO and CFO talking, right? And the CFO says, it's something along the lines of, well, what if we invest all this money into our employees and they leave us? And the CEO turns around and says, well, what if they stay? What if we don't and they stay? You've got to be able to invest in your employees, right? Yeah, it's a big thing. And I'm not going to say that you are plugging us here, but in the lab, I think so much what the doc and I talk about with our value system, be rich, rise to mastery is part of it, right? Self-growth and development, but a lot of it is inspiration for others, celebrating knowledge and helping people, right? Lifting people up with you, because we all, to your point earlier, we all kind of get a hand up the ladder, right? In some way, none of us are truly lone wolves out there. We're all working within the framework of other relationships. So somebody's helping us up. We have a responsibility to help other people up too. We just believe that as coaches, as business people, we believe that inherently as a core value. So it totally speaks to us, man. It's cool.
Listen, I love that you mentioned that, because as a company, 1Huddle, right, we're focusing on 3 major things this year, right? Is win as one, no pun intended, right? But win as one. We're making some really big growth and some gains within the company. We're bringing on some of the best-in-class companies in the world that are looking at and understanding our platform. The second thing that we're focusing on is turn up the volume. You talked about celebrations, man. Sometimes we're like so focused and we have the blinders on.
Yep.
Oh man, I got here. That's it. What's next? Right? I got the promotion. What's next? Right? We're in the process, my wife and I, right? We're in the process of buying a house, and I'm going after it almost like that. I'm like making offers left and right. I want to grab realtors by their neck. This is what we're going to do. But let's stop and celebrate, man. When we win, listen, we won. Not what's next. Right? And then the third part is the team. You just said it. We have to help others. We have to help the generations that are coming up, right? Obviously, we want to help ourselves as well, right? But listen, generations are coming up now, and unfortunately, some of them don't have the structure or with the amount of information that is out there, every platform is competing for attention, right? So we have to help with the structure, and we have to pull the generation and say, listen, this is what you need to do. Where we messed up or where we failed and where we succeeded, this is where you're going to pick up, either the slack or help us grow and expand. So I like that. I like that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're speaking to really aligns well with the entire concept of 1Huddle. Anyways, I mean, you're really preaching what you put out there as a company, because 1Huddle, I look at this and it's saying, hey, we got results we want to hit. And everybody has goals and results, right? We're not in business without goals and results. And there's entire books, I'm sure, written around BHAGs and, your SMART goals and all that stuff. And to me, and I'm a big believer in this, it's a lot less about that result. I mean, we have to drive towards that result, but it's a lot more about how do we get to that result. And that's an ongoing thing, right? And that's the journey and the process. And that's exactly what you're doing with gamification. It's focusing, you're getting to the result, but it's focusing on all the stuff that gets you to the result. And let's optimize that, right? Let's make that better. Let's make that work as best as possible for people.
Listen, I don't know. It sounds like we almost rehearsed this, man, but you're saying exactly the right things. That just speaks power to the type of, coaches that you guys are, right? And mentors and a lot of companies out there reward on the results. And guess what? Those companies are failing. Those companies are going out of business. Those companies are not growing. All of the studies point that if you reward effort, the people that are being rewarded on effort, the kids, right? There's studies out there, and anyone could search this, but the kids that are being rewarded on effort, the employees that are rewarded on effort, they feel more comfortable with the opportunity to take bigger risks, to fail and rebound a lot faster, right? Guess what? Failure is part of the learning formula, and most people are afraid. And I'll tell you a quick story, not to take anyone's thunder here, but when I got to 1Huddle, I was an expert in my field. I wasn't an expert in gamification. I was not an expert in SaaS, not in tech, but I was an expert in my field. I was an expert in fitness. I managed a large portfolio of real estate companies and multifamilies. I was an expert in those fields. When I got to 1Huddle, I was extremely afraid to make a mistake. So I was almost shy to go ahead and speak up. And guess what? We promote failure. We promote swinging the bat, right? It's the effort that you're putting in. And that just goes in life, right? Don't go ahead and provide feedback before they even try. How about, hey, listen, let them fail, let them struggle through it, let them figure it out, which is a better way of learning, by the way. And then let's give the right feedback. So here's another plug for the doctor there. So I'm sure he could give all feedback, right? But you give correct feedback, and that is what's going to help develop, grow, and expand.
Yeah, you said it really well. It's how do we learn? And Doc says this all the time. Everything we do is an experiment, right, Doc?
Right, and I think the key piece with the reward, if you've heard me talk about behaviors, there's those 3 R's. Anytime you're trying to change the behavior, one of the most important one is that reward, the reinforcement, because that's when our brain knows it's something we're supposed to do again. So if you're not reinforcing it, you're not rewarding it, your brain doesn't know which one of those activities it's supposed to do. Our brain just goes by what we tell it, and doesn't always know good from bad. So the one that gets reinforced and rewarded is the one that's going to keep doing over and over again.
Yeah, and that definitely segues to once again our whole concept and our platform, right? Everything revolves around leaderboards, incentives, rewards, and competition, right? If we have with most companies that we launch, and not to continue to obviously plug our company, right? Because we don't care as long as you're rewarding and you're pushing and incentivizing that natural competitive nature of that we all have, despite what some people say that they don't, right? But we have an over 90 to 95% voluntary participation on our platform. That's unheard of, right? You could go ahead and start searching any company out there and whatever they're doing, and they have single digit voluntary participation. It's like, we got to check the box. I don't care. You're going to be onboarded. Watch this video, take this test, and let's get you on there. But what if we incentivize? What if, guess what? We're going to give you an opportunity to grow and expand and immerse yourself in our culture. Better yet, you're going to be part of our culture. You're going to help us grow. You're going to help us expand. And you're going to hear a lot of that repetition that I'm going to go ahead and say, grow and expand, right? Because when you take a position with a company, it feels good to be part of a team, right? The money is important, right? But, depending where we are in our careers and in our journey, money is important, but you feel like you're part of the team. You don't want to go anywhere. You feel like you're making an impact. You don't want to go anywhere. On the contrary, you want to give back. You want to go ahead and help. So we're real big on that.
Well, we talk all the time about community and how we're tribal in nature, right? We want to be a part of something. I even asked a question this few weeks ago on PT with JB. I asked about, did you find your community or did it find you, right? And just a big question to ask people, because I'm curious how that interplays out. It's really cool that you're either helping develop or reinforcing that community within organizations. I mean, that's a really, that it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is.
Oh, it definitely is. Listen, we work with some great, not only our community, but with some great nonprofits out there. Some of them are Saving Jane, Us for Warriors, helping, veterans, get back, NJ Reentry. Some of the best nonprofits out there, we're working with them, right? Aside from that, we are in the business of building a community. We want, like-minded professionals. We want future leaders, right, to not only find themselves, right, but be part of the movement. And what's the movement? That everyone deserves an opportunity to get better. Everybody deserves an opportunity for development. If you have right here, right in your heart, and you have the drive, listen, they deserve the opportunity. They deserve to contribute. They deserve, because my God, who knows, right? Who's the next leader? Who's the next, and here, that's a big push, right? Albert Einstein, Muhammad Ali, it doesn't matter, man. Who's that next person? Opportunity, right? And if you have that drive, man, give it to them. I know, here's where we pause and we cry a bit, right? So, but is that how it works, right? Man up, all right?
Hey, we're on camera. It's hard. It's just hard. I don't know why. The doc could probably tell you why it's hard for me. You got to play some Sarah McLachlan right now.
Oh, man.
No, I'm going to be teared up.
Spotify. I'll put some Spotify on there.
Although that, when I think gaming, though, that's the one piece you might be missing, and I want a piece of this if you do it. When I think of all the fun video games in the past, they always had great soundtracks. And I've been listening to you talk, Eddie. I've heard you got to pump up the volume. I've heard, it's all a dream. So I think your 90s soundtrack is already right there for you. Now you just got to figure out how to get that in the gamification. Then you it's over. Like the world explodes.
Guess what? No. But, this is the big picture here. We already have the ability to do that. So you could upload any songs you want in there. So you want the soundtrack? We'll dump it in there, man.
That's cool.
We could customize it completely. But the 90s soundtrack.
All 90s all time. Let's do it.
Oh, man. Now you're speaking my language. We're kind of, dating ourselves a bit, man. But I think the 90s were great, man. Great music.
and time for a cheap plug. If you guys haven't been following around, JB mentioned PT with JB in the mornings, following his PT routine, dropping some knowledge on you. And then, of course, I'm dropping psycho rock with the doc, where we take those musical influences, we play a clip, and then we give you some psycho education. So we're all in the same world here. This energy isn't crazy.
I love that. Are we going to do a bit of that now? Because forget about what I'm talking about. Let's do some of that right now. That's what I want to do.
If you want to drop some bars, go ahead. You won't be the first guest, though.
We've had people rap on the podcast before, so you would not be the first to drop some bars. It's true.
Yeah, man, I drop some bars, and then it sounds terrible, and I miss the lyrics, and then I'll get psychoanalyzed here. And no,
we would edit the YouTube video to make a lot of people laugh. Maybe I don't know how you'd feel about it. A lot of people would be laughing.
Hey, listen, I already lost my hair, man, so it doesn't matter. Let's do it.
So Eddie, I want to kind of work back towards the bigger vision right now with gamification, 1Huddle. You're really focused on learning management systems that speaks to like employee retention and employee development. Where else does 1Huddle really see gamification growing, and where's the opportunity there from 1Huddle's perspective?
Yeah, absolutely, JB. So listen, we could gamify anything and everything, right? But there's three core focus that we're really looking into. One is onboarding, getting an employee from 0 to 100 as quickly as possible. We know from experience and from what companies are asking, they're struggling with this. Especially now, everybody's so tired of hearing the, great resignation and all of that stuff, right? But companies are struggling with not only finding talent, but they're struggling with keeping talent, right? So now more than ever, it's important to get an employee as quickly as possible onboarded, right? So we definitely play a real big impact there. So a lot of companies come knocking on the door and they talk about that. Long haul, right? Upskilling is another aspect that we focus quite a bit. Unfortunately, a lot of companies treat training as an event, a one and done. Everybody, this is the event. Let's get butts in the seat. Guess what? 1Huddle is a 52-week a year employee development platform. And what that means is training or development, right? Better development than just training. It's not a one and done. It's a constant, right? And companies are struggling with that, unfortunately. And the ones that want to make that change and want to be the best, because that's what we got to focus on. You want to be the best, right? They're coming to us and saying, how can we continue to upskill and develop over the long haul? And the third part that we're really looking into and we're really focusing on is in recruiting. Basically, being able to land the interview. The crazy thing is that everybody's complaining, and I'm generalizing here, right? But we hear, we can't find workers, we can't do this, we can't do that, people are quitting. But guess what? We are getting, because we've tried it, and it's very unfortunate, we responded to ads for companies that right now are hiring, and they don't get back to you. So you're complaining, and they're not even calling you back, right? So, I don't know if I should name drop, right? Because I don't want anybody to go after us.
Tell.
Don't lose my sponsors.
Right. Don't lose the sponsors. Well,
we just brought them on. Don't lose them.
Okay, so one that's unfortunate, right? And they do some great stuff, but Starbucks, right? You go ahead and they're talking about they're hiring, and I walked in front some of our team members, and guess what? You're hiring. You have the postings up. You go in there, and no jobs available, right? But yeah, you're giving that. We've also went ahead and some of our associates have said maybe we want to work with them as well. They don't call you back, right? So that doesn't speak to volume as the whole company, right? But that is the brand. That could be managers, that could be leaders, in specific locations. And that's one of many. We've gone in front of, retail stores, right? That they're struggling, brick and mortar buildings, and we're hiring. And guess what? They don't return your calls, right? Also, guess what? A resume is great, but a resume doesn't tell you everything about the person, right? Yeah, we all know a recruiter or two, and it's unfortunate. There's not a knock on recruiters, because there's some amazing ones out there that will look at the resume and go, doesn't fit the criteria, and just toss it away. instead of giving that person a call and giving them an opportunity, right, and saying, hey, guess what, maybe this is not the right position for you, but maybe we could find something else to plug you in, or guess what, I'm going to keep you on. And there are some companies that do a great job of that. So recruiting is another piece that we're gamifying the process, right? So imagine an employee or a potential employee, a candidate, right, walks in front of a store, they scan a QR code, they play a game on the position that's available. They play a game, right, on how to be a barista, how to be, a frontline, a waiter, a bartender, whatever the case is, how to properly interview. Imagine learning about the mission, vision, core values before you even start, right? So when you ask, where can gamification be applied? We're doing that currently. It's unfortunate, and I'll challenge any CEO, COO out there, any C-suite. Ask your employees, do you know the mission, our company's mission? Unfortunately, 8 out of 10 will go ahead and say, oh, I don't know, right? Because that has happened to some of the companies that we're working with. And I think that's important, right? What's mission, vision, your core values? Well, how can I be part of that culture? How can I grow? How can I expand, right? So we're doing a little bit of all of that.
It's so you brought up a lot there, and there's a couple things I want to key in on. First of all, you mentioned Starbucks, which is the last couple months been dealing with some real employment issues with unions and unionization, which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. Not here to comment on that politically. Just they're struggling with employment and employment retention right now, and I'm sure with recruitment as well. So that's an interesting case study for a whole nother day. But with retention, you talked onboarding up front, then you moved into retention. Really kind of interesting, the math and the science behind that. You lose an hourly worker, it's probably going to cost you $1,500 to find a replacement. You lose a technical worker, and it's going to be at least 100% of the salary on average to replace them. And you take a C-suite person, and my gosh, they're an exec, 200+% to replace. So retention is huge. But I'm going to broaden, if it's okay with you, Eddie, I'm going to broaden this, because I think if you're hiring and have employees, you're thinking to yourself, wow, I can see how this applies. This is really important to me. Okay. There's a lot of solopreneurs that are probably listening in on this, and I want people to appreciate, and this is an important, I think, line to draw, that everything you're talking about, Eddie, with internal employees and bringing people in, that can be projected onto clients, client acquisition, and client retention. And so this to me, gamification is much more than, 1Huddle's focus might be on those three things for companies. But I think as business owners, as solopreneurs out there, or small businesses where you might not have a lot of employees, you can apply these same concepts to client value, lifetime value with the client. How do I retain it? What's the cost of replacing a client or getting a new client in? And you can really utilize this and project that onto that too. So it's a really broad thing we're talking about. So I kind of wanted to put that out there for everybody. I thought that was important to put out there. I'm curious, from your perspective, what's the biggest missed opportunity you see from businesses and business owners when it comes to gamification? Or maybe I need to ask that better, and I'm going to even ask it more simply. How many businesses are really applying gamification well, in your opinion?
Not a lot, but before I even dive into that, you mentioned a good point. Yes, gamification, if you're a solopreneur, could be applied to your clients, could be applied on learning about your product, could be applied for lead gen, not just another email. Here's my card, call me when you're ready. How about playing a game on the brand? How about playing a game on the actual product itself? So we are doing that currently right now with some of our clients as well, that they bring other clients on board. So that is being done. To your point, how many companies are doing gamification well? Guess what? We're still talking to companies that are building manuals, man. Come on. Gamification. They don't even know what the heck that means. They're talking about, hey, can you digitize my manual? The answer to that is yes, but yeah, unfortunately, if you don't evolve, you will miss the boat, right? Look what happened to Blockbuster, right? Netflix even tried selling to them, and Blockbuster said, "Oh my God, come on, get out of here." How many Blockbusters are left, right? I think the last one closed. So
You're talking our language, by the way, Eddie. You have
I
no
know.
idea. You go back to our original YouTubes.
So if
Listen,
you are
you need
listening
to
on
innovate.
YouTube right now, just scroll back a little bit and you will see, for those of you might not know what they're talking about, is we did some reaction videos to some bad training videos. So we had a Nintendo, we had a Blockbuster one in there. So if you are on
It's
YouTube
pretty
right now
classic.
listening to us,
It's worth checking out.
check it
Eddie, if
out
you haven't
next.
checked it out, you gotta go back and watch that sometime.
I'm definitely going to. I'm definitely listen. You need to innovate, and I'm glad you guys are talking about that, right? Because companies are missing the mark, and it's unfortunate, right? Some companies are doing a great job because gamification is not the silver bullet, right? It's not. That's it. This is the one and done. No, development is an and, not an either or, right? And that's extremely important. So, a lot of companies go ahead and come, oh, are you an LMS? Are you an e-learning? What, you're gamification. They miss the mark completely, right? Right? Our platform is based on struggle or retrieval practice, right? Learning and failure, struggle is part of that learning process, right? Unfortunately, not a lot of leaders think that way. We got to make it easy for them. They deserve the participation trophy. Not everybody deserves a participation trophy, right? We have to go ahead and make it difficult because that's what's going to make that sticky, right? I always use this analogy. Listen, a baby doesn't learn how to walk by reading a manual, watching a video. Guess what? It struggles. It stands up. It falls. It tips over. It falls forward. It does it again. Repetition. I feel some more. Get up. Eventually, we all walked, right? So struggle is a super important part. It's an integral part of learning. So when you talk about companies, the companies that are doing it well, the companies that are challenging their employees, their leaders to be better, right? The ones that are trying to push the bar, saying, listen, we could do better, right? And giving that correct feedback. It's not, hey, this is the way we've always done it. No, listen, we need to innovate or we die, right? So we got to get better. We have to be better. I hope that helps.
We like better. Better is a good thing.
I like that. Good stuff.
And what you're saying there, I think, is perfect with the idea of more than one thing can be true at any moment, right? Just because we've done something one way doesn't mean that's the only way. And if we try something new, that doesn't mean we have to get rid of all the other stuff. But you integrate and you put more than one thing together.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right, Doc. Listen, companies need trainers. We need industry professionals. Guess what? But when the trainer is not there anymore, we need a way to reinforce what they taught you, right? And keep that top of mind. Guess what? There is a place for maybe a manual, but make it a little bit simpler, right? Welcome to today, right? Let's stop using yesterday's boring, outdated, antiquated technologies, right? A Model T was great when it came out, but guess what? There's a Tesla now, right? So we need to get better. And that's what we're always talking about. It's not an either, it's not an either or, it's an and.
Absolutely. Speaking of and, that worked in my mind. We heard there's also something that you would like to share with our audience. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Listen, anyone and everyone listening to this, right? If you go to our website, 1huddle.co, right? And you actually have a promotion to access a free 1-week trial on our platform. That way you can learn the science behind learning. You can see how our platform interacts, the type of games that we build. One of our clients and partners is Audible, and we can go ahead and take anything and everything, any book out there, and build a game off of it. So if you want to experience 1Huddle for yourself and firsthand, go ahead, get on the website and jump in for that trial.
That's awesome, man. That is a fantastic offer. Yeah, I don't want that to fall on deaf ears. You want to really get a sense for how one of the top companies out there is helping businesses apply gamification. You can get an inside look at it right there for a week free. That's a pretty powerful thing. It's a great way to just learn a little bit more and grow and develop and work on a business without any real investment, no skin in the game outside of a few minutes of your time. So that's really awesome. Eddie, dude, this is a great conversation, man. I mean, to me, yeah, how we evolve in our business and our practice and how we implement new ways of doing things is really important, right? There's the tried and true formulas, but you need to build on those. If you go way back to our original podcast, you can hear about how we talked about, developing a new formula with old recipes that we made better and better. And that's kind of the reality that we have in business today. We're constantly growing and evolving. So I love this concept, man. I loved having you on, dude. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. That's a great conversation.
Very much appreciated. Thank you for having me on.
And of course, all Eddie's information will be in the show notes. And you can also find Eddie inside our Entrepreneurial Mastery Lab on Facebook.
Thanks, right. Eddie, man, hope to see you again, brother.
Absolutely, guys. Take care.
Thanks for joining us.
Yep.
Doc, I'm curious about your feelings on this. I mean, learning, growth and development, it's all got to do with the brain and how we think. So I've got to imagine you got some pretty strong feelings and thoughts around this, don't you?
I think the idea of a game and why they're so successful is because you don't realize you're learning as much as you're just kind of in the moment. You're engaged with it. So it takes some of that pressure off of, I have to really learn all this. And you just naturally learn it. Again, tricking that brain to know it's something that's enjoyable. Because reality is when we play games, they're enjoyable. That's how we've conditioned ourselves over time. When you were a kid, you played a game, board game night, trivia night, even bars still do that stuff. They make you play games, right? They have you play games because they know they're enjoyable. So your brain recognizes something that's enjoyable and then adds in the learning.
Yeah, I was very curious, about the competitive side of things, right? And bringing competition into it. Yeah, I'm a competitive guy. I've always been a competitive guy, but not everybody is competitive. So it's interesting, I think, maybe to dig into that if we do have Eddie on for another conversation, just on the competitive aspect and what that brings out. I think there would be a really cool conversation around that, because for people who might be a little intimidated by competition, yeah, it's just a very interesting topic to explore. But I love this stuff. I really do geek out over it. I'm glad we had Eddie join us. And again, all of his details are in the show notes. And he's a part of the Entrepreneur Mastery Lab, so our Facebook community. If you haven't joined already, make sure you get in there and join. You can see it if you're on YouTube, scrolling below, but facebook.com groups, Lab of Mastery. And we are also all over social media, aren't we, Doc?
We are. You can find us at our website at jbandthedoctor.com or on any of our social medias at jbandthedoctor. We kind of keep things simple for you.
We try. And I said it up front. I'll say it again. If you're still listening, if you're still watching, do us a big favor, like, subscribe, follow, give us a 5-star review. It helps everybody else learn how awesome what we go over is in the lab and is out there. And we want it to get out in front of more people, but we do need your help. We do need your support. So give us a like, give us a love, give us a follow, and we will see you and talk to you next week.
Give it to us, baby. Peace out, yo.
Sorry, I couldn't help it. 90s. JB out.